The Clone Wars' first year had come and passed, but the destruction and carnage have yet to escalate to their full fury. As clones and droids march over the battlefield and starfighters and bombers scream overhead, an ancient beast begins to awaken from its slumber. Welcome to the Wizards and Warriors channel. We're glad to have you with us on our next foray into the Star Wars universe. As is our custom, we invite you to get comfortable and maybe grab a beverage and some food as we recount the tale of the opening salvos of the second year of the Clone Wars and the great beast of Malastare. But if you've also got your own tales to tell on the tabletop, then tell them upon the beautiful fantasy maps of our sponsor today, Chepeku. For your next D&D or Pathfinder campaign, take the adventure into Chepeku's library of over 4,000 stunning maps. It covers everything you'll need, from quaint towns to sprawling multi-level dungeons, with so many imaginative locations that you'll doubtless be inspired to add more and more to your quests. There are all kinds of themes, and even time of day variants available to pump up the immersion even more. With so many maps available, just know that we've taken only a handful of examples here. You can see the full catalogue online. As you can see, many of the maps are available in animated digital forms. Chepeku maps can be seamlessly used in most virtual tabletop programs, including wall and lighting presets for Foundry VTT. There are tutorials for easily setting these up, and then you can enjoy the enhanced ease of use alongside visual and audio effects. To get these maps, head over to the Chepeku Patreon and subscribe to the Master Cartographer tier for $5 a month. That gives you everything and all the new stuff being added constantly. Or you can go to chepeku.com to purchase individual map sets. Treat yourself to an adventure on all these beautiful maps by clicking our links in the description. Though there were a great number of resources poured into the Ryloth campaign, there were other fronts which had even greater amounts of troops and strategic resources. One of these was the planet of Malastare, located within the Mid-Rim on the Hydian Way. The dog species inhabited this planet and had opted for a stance of neutrality, though it was one of the largest fuel producers in the galaxy and critical for the Republic to maintain its offensive capabilities. It was with this in mind that the Separatists made the planet a target early on in the war. We are not given an exact date for their campaign on the planet's commencement, though it most likely began sometime around the beginning of the Ryloth and Malevolence campaigns. Therefore, each campaign served as a diversion for the other, forcing the Republic to stretch its limited number of available troops, with Malastare probably being the primary target of the CIS, as we shall see later on. With the recent destruction of the Malevolence and the reclamation of Ryloth, the Republic would soon, without doubt, turn its attention to relieving Malastare, though the Separatists were determined to prevent this. One of their first plans to counter the Republic's attempt to relieve the planet was to effectively destroy the nearby planet of Naboo, which served as a strategic base of operations for the Republic. Its destruction would leave a large part of the Mid-Rim vulnerable to the CIS, especially if Malastare were taken as well. To do this, they would deploy another of their researched weapons, but unlike the technological terror of the Malevolence, this one was biochemical, a modified reintroduction of the Blue Shadow virus, a virus which had threatened the galaxy in the years before the Clone Wars. The virus was a waterborne pathogen capable of killing carbon-based lifeforms within a matter of 2 days. After it had killed an untold number of people, most likely in the millions if not billions before the Clone Wars, it was all but eradicated, though the cure for the disease was still unknown. Many believed there simply was none. In an example showing just how far the Separatist Council was willing to go to win the war, they contacted the Faust scientist Nuvo Vindi and tasked him with remaking the virus, hoping to weaponize it as the majority of their forces wouldn't suffer from the deployment of it on the battlefield, being droids. They especially hoped this would serve as an effective counter to the Jedi, as their presence on the battlefield had already demonstrated just how effectively they could turn the tide of entire battles. Vindi made his base secretly on Naboo, as its vast seas and oceans were perfect for the virus to thrive in. He eventually succeeded in reviving it, but would go further and bioengineered it so that it could be airborne, placing it into so-called viral bombs, which could be dropped on key worlds. Luckily for the Republic, Vindi had not hidden his base well, and the Naboo security alerted the Republic to its presence, allowing the Jedi to neutralize the operation. Another Separatist offensive was simultaneously taking place far on the other side of the galaxy, on the jungle world of Felucia. The planet, though not as advanced as some of its counterparts on the Palamian trade route, was valuable not only for its position on the hyperlane, but also for its rich abundance in Nisselin, a healing herb. Both the Republic and the Separatists had well understood its value and had placed garrisons on the planet early on, and they were now beginning to send dedicated forces to capture it. The Republic force was put on the defensive by the arrival of reinforcements led by General Grievous and Dooku's Sith assassin Asajj Ventress. Hoping to salvage the situation, the Jedi Council dispatched Generals Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, now renowned across the galaxy for their military prowess. Upon their arrival, however, they found little they could do to change the outcome, as Republic forces were at the breaking point. They were at least saved from outright disaster due to the Jedi General's timely arrival, along with reinforcing detachments of the 501st and the 212th. Ventress, however, brought in significant reinforcements herself, including several munificent frigates that blockaded the world and cut off the Republic ground forces from their fleet above. Kenobi executed a delaying strategy of defensive actions and precision strikes to allow time for the Republic to hopefully break the blockade, though he realized the planet was lost. This proved the correct move, as Plo Koon soon arrived and broke the blockade, accompanied by the 104th Battalion. They began to extract their remaining forces off the planet, a process which became complicated by the insubordination of Ahsoka Tano, who disobeyed orders to disengage the enemy during a precision strike she was put in command of. Skywalker's timely arrival, rescuing her and her troops, prevented the risky move from turning into a disaster. The loss of Felucia set back the campaign within that sector for the Republic by weeks, denying them the planet's resources and position on the hyperlane. Despite repeated losses earlier in the war, the second-year opening seemed to be in favor of the CIS, as heavy Republic casualties were suffered along the northern and southern fronts. The Separatists had taken advantage of the weak garrison on Geonosis as well, and secretly returned to the planet, beginning to re-establish themselves there, closer to the Corellian Run, where so many of their ambitions had so far been quashed. Another situation, which started at the Jedi Temple with a raid by bounty hunter Cad Bane to steal a Jedi holocron, culminated at the Battle of Deveron, where Bane's fleet, which consisted of ships loaned by Newt Gunray, fought the Republic forces led by Skywalker, who were sent to capture Bane and free the Jedi Bola Rapal, who was being held prisoner by Bane. He successfully destroyed Bane's fleet, but failed to save Rapal or capture Bane himself. What's more, Bane had escaped with the holocron, which he forced Skywalker to open under threat of killing Ahsoka Tano. Luckily he was stopped, and the holocron was returned not long after. With the situation for the Republic devolving to this point, it is now that we return to Malastare, where the Separatists were on the cusp of another major victory. Though it is known as one of the longest and fiercest battles of the war, few records remain to tell of the battle itself. As we postulated at the beginning of this video, it most likely began sometime in the prior year, at the same time Ryloth was attacked and as the Malevolence still prowled the stars, and was perhaps even the primary target of the CIS. Republic clone forces probably took part in most of the battle, but it is likely that the native Dugs shouldered a fair part of the fighting as well. The Republic had agreed to prioritize the planet's defense in a deal negotiated with the leaders of the planet, in exchange for Malastare giving the Republic access to the planet's vast fuel reserves. At the same time, even with this arrangement, Republic troops came sparingly, while Separatist forces advanced using a strategy of overwhelming force. With the droid army forming outside of the capital, the final confrontation of the battle was soon to begin. The Republic forces consisted of clones and Dug warriors, with Jedi General Mace Windu leading his 91st Corps and in overall command. Reinforcing him was Jedi General Skywalker and his 501st Legion, who would make up the new front line. Their forces were supplemented with the standard ATTE as well as RX-200 Falchion-class assault tanks. The Dugs made up the second line and were primarily mounted cavaliers. These forces were supported by multiple pieces of artillery, such as debris loaders and railguns, all supported from the air by a small force of ARC-170 fighters and BTLB Y-wing bombers. The Separatist forces, meanwhile, had a similar composition, with B-1 and B-2 battle droids making up the vast majority of their ground troops, up to 20,000 in all, and were under the command of tactical battle droid TN-123. It should be said that the lack of a more renowned commander meant less importance was placed on the planet, but it could also be that since the Republic was targeting the Separatist leadership, they had hoped to divert attention to other sectors. Interspersed with the droids' battle lines were DSD-1 Dwarf Spider droids, LM-432 Crab droids, AAT tanks, NRN-99 tanks, and a complement of Hyena bombers and Vulture fighters. The battle commenced with a forward advance of the droid army. The Republic forces adopted a spread-out pattern, taking cover behind the many boulders and rock formations that dotted the plain below the capital. The Separatists soon came under heavy fire, as the Republic had been careful to clear the field of any obstructions beforehand, aside from what they used as cover themselves. So, to suppress this and soften the defences, the CIS released their Hyena bombers. These were effectively taken out by the ion rays of the Falchian tanks, which cut into them as they flew over the Republic's forces, unfortunately plummeting upon the Republic's front line as a result and knocking out some of their heavy equipment. The advance grinded on, and once they had closed the distance, the Separatists moved their Dwarf Spiders to the front, wreaking havoc on the Republic's lines. The Dug's Cavaliers advanced, hoping to destroy the Spider droids, but they were mown down in the attempt, and the survivors were recalled to the line. With the battle seemingly falling apart, the Republic sent the go-ahead for their bombers to deploy their secret weapon, the newly developed electro-proton bomb. Though devices aimed at disabling mechanical beings or electronic equipment had existed for a long time, such as ion guns or the Malevolence's massive cannons, the bomb was of such destructive magnitude, its creator, Saunver Bol, said it could wipe out entire armies, all without harming organic beings. Though Doge Naka Urus, the leader of Malastare, was wary of the device, he was convinced to use it by Chancellor Palpatine, who was surveying the battle via hologram. The Republic's Y-Wings left their base in the capital and climbed up, whilst being screened for by squadrons of ARC-170s approaching from behind the palace. This had the intended effect, as the Separatists launched their Vulture droids to target the ARCs, which were lower to the ground, and were soon cut to pieces by the experienced and accurate artillery fire of the Dugs, paving the way for the Y-Wings to deliver their payload. The bombs went off with an initial explosive shockwave that devastated the Separatist center. The following electronic blast all but annihilated their army, turning an all but certain victory into an utter defeat for the CIS, with no droid escaping and the few which survived being destroyed by the Dugs. The long battle was over, much to the relief of the Dugs, but with a sudden shake, the ground where the bomb impacted began to quake and eventually sink. A great hole began to open up, taking some Republic troops down into it. Forces were sent to recover these troops, which led to a horrifying discovery, as a great monster arose and its shrieking cries echoed over the rim of the sinkhole, striking terror into the Dugs, who identified it as a Zillo beast, a creature long thought hunted to extinction. With the emergence of the beast, the treaty between the Republic and Malastare was put on hold until the Dugs were sure it was dead, as their ancient animosity would not allow for it to live. While Doge Urus was preparing his plan to execute the trapped beast, he came to blows with Windu, who was just as adamant about keeping it alive. He saw it as innocent and hoped to transport it to a safe location off Malastare. This feud nearly broke the hard-won agreement for the Republic, but Skywalker had come up with a cunning plan. Urus had decided to flood the sinkhole with Malastare's fuel, as it was toxic to the beast. But just as Windu had predicted, this only drove the creature from the sinkhole, and it began ravaging the Dug encampment. Windu and Skywalker enacted the plan and began bombarding the beast with rays from their Falchian tanks' ion cannons, which eventually brought the beast down, stunning it and allowing the Republic to move it to Coruscant, though the Dugs believed it to be dead. With that, the treaty was signed and the campaign for Malastare was concluded, reinvigorating a Republic becoming more and more used to the bitter taste of defeat in recent times. The Zillo beast would ultimately have to be killed, however, as it broke free from its new enclosure on Coruscant. But that is a tale for another time, as other events, far more critical, were transpiring within the galaxy. If you want to see more episodes, make sure to subscribe and press the bell button. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our videos would be impossible without our kind patrons and YouTube channel members, whose ranks you can join via the links in the description to know our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our Discord, and much more. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we will catch you on the next one.